Dobrodošli u prvu epizodu druge sezone Serbian Tech podcasta 5 pitanja za. Ja sam Vladimir i bit ću vaš domaćin. Drugu sezonu posvećujemo startupima i želimo da odgovorimo na goruća pitanja iz oblasti marketinga, poslovnog razvoja, finansiranja i investicija. Pokrenuli smo i novi serijal predstavljanje startupa na našem sajtu, pa vas pozivam da u sekciji novosti pročitate čime se bave Nanobile i Urbigo. U današnjoj epizodi govorit ćemo o growth hacking tehnikama sa svjetski priznatim stručnjakom iz ove oblasti i instruktorom najprodavanijeg growth hacking kursa na Udemy. Predstavljam vam Maju Voje i odmah prelazim na engleski kako bismo olakšali komunikaciju.
My next guest is Maja Voje. Maja, welcome. Thanks for joining me today and answering questions from our listeners. Can you tell me a few words about you for the start?
Yeah, sure, my pleasure. So first of all, I'm very hyped to have an opportunity to speak to Serbian tech community. I was there a lot when I was working with Origin Trail, and it's such a vibrant, awesome community. A lot of really intelligent folks. Love how you guys are just like coming together, unifying in different meetups and different like workplaces and so onwards. So it's my pleasure and sincere honor to share a nugget of the wisdom or two with you guys. And thanks so much for submitting the questions. These questions will be fun, and I hope that you will learn a lot from this conversation. Talking about myself, I mean, I'm pretty old. I'm over 30, so I don't know even where to start. But let me just say a couple of fun things that people probably would like to know about me. So I'm a co-instructor of the most sold Udemy class about growth hacking and digital marketing. Almost 50K people went through the training, and that's extremely important part of my life. My mission per se is to teach and just like empower people, because for me it's all about the empowerment and how we can help people to just like be a better version of themselves. As cheesy as it sounds, I truly believe it. Other than that, I've been working in marketing for approximately 10 years, and I didn't like the whole notion of campaigns and how do you just like launch stuff and plan stuff in advance. I was always very eager to experiment, to try new things out. So when I learned about growth hacking, that was a match made in heaven, and I devoted my career to it like 6 years ago. Worked with a lot of companies with a lot of different business models. So you are in the right place to get those nuggets out of what is specific and everybody can apply.
Nice, great intro. For me personally, I know what you did with Origin Trail. Good work. Hopefully listeners know as well. I mean, we all know Origin Trail, what they accomplished, and I guess part of that goes to you.
And a large part goes to Serbia, in fact, because like all the entire product team still sits there. I mean, we are spectacular friends. I'm totally delighted we met. And yeah, the heavy lifting in terms of technology development is definitely done in Belgrade. And I actually missed visiting them in Belgrade. These were my favorite summers.
Nice. Thanks. Hopefully people will also apply some of the things that you say today. They want to just listen and take it like that. Okay.
A couple of takeaways, like a homework at the end.
Okay, let's start with the first question. What are your thoughts on breaking the rules to achieve a positive growth result? Not hardcore illegal activities, of course, but identifying loopholes and similar things.
Yeah, cool. First of all, it depends in what type of companies are you working, right? Whether you are like a startup and you can be like walking a little bit more on the edge in some cases of if you are like working in a large corporate or with somebody who's taking care of investment, then you should be more careful about the stuff. When breaking rules, it comes rules made by humans and rules made by God, if I can express myself like that. And the second sort is connected with your ethical system them. I definitely wouldn't like to encourage you to like do something bad for humanity. No, no, no. But since we are talking like great hack techniques here, so stuff that is not conventional, it's a little bit subversive and might be like not illegal, but not necessarily what other people are doing. It's all about creativity. And I'm not saying like go until you don't get caught, but some subversiveness and just like some of unconventional thinking is needed to be successful in the practice per se. Why? Because if everybody would be like depending on the same channels and just like doing the same stuff, we would outbid ourselves. So just like the person with the majority of money would outbid us all and the rest of us wouldn't have a fighting chance. And how you can go about things more creatively and just like apply some stuff is definitely by being able to understand data and have some sort of technical knowledge to do stuff. It's again like very, very difficult to generally talk about that yes or no, because I could be legally accountable for that. But I'd just like finish on that note that as long as you are not like breaking one platform's rules hardcore, that they would like suspend your accounts or that you are like doing damage to people, it's definitely not only welcome, but needed to get a little bit creative. And when I'm talking creative, I don't mean just like scraping emails and going through website, finding contacts, definitely not only that. I was just like talking with one team in the morning. They are in the market of betting for horse races, and their strongest acquisition channel will actually be like to be displayed in the boards when the betting process take on. And we had this discussion in the morning, like, is it moral to work in the betting industry? Some people would argue that for crypto industry or whatnot. And at the end of the day, my usually favorite thought about this is people have their own money, they can make their own decisions. So that's a very difficult question to answer, but my personal take on it is yes, as long as you are not doing harm, or just like make sure that if you have to be compliant for the company, if there are like GDPR consequences or whatever things that could like provide you a short-term win, but could definitely be a huge handicap in future, don't do that, because eventually it will come and chase you.
Yeah, there's no escape. So definitely be creative, but once you have your idea in place, maybe go over rules, regulations, and laws, and try to figure out if you're breaking any and what would be the consequences of breaking.
Yeah, just like discuss it with legal. I mean, it can come down to a really dumb question, such as, is it okay to generate like business cards on a fair and then like to follow up on people if they didn't give you their explicit consent that they can be like contacted or something like that. These are things that can get like a little bit in a weird area, but like you use common sense here. Of course, if they like hand you a business card, it's okay to send them one email. That shouldn't be an issue, right?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of talk about giveaways, drawing a winner or something like that. Is it should be comply with some regulations regarding gambling or stuff like that? So yeah, definitely people should consider reading the laws and regulations.
Yeah, or in the other hand, I mean, a lot of people are doing like contests and giveaways just like to generate emails for some remarketing lists, right? That's a very popular stuff to do as well. And with that things, like you are always in a gray zone because of course, like Facebook, when you are doing like displaying, the remarketing campaigns, you have to like check the box whether you are compliant and if everybody gave you consent. Definitely not saying that this is like a good idea to just like ignore that, but I believe that like you should go based on your common sense here. So at the end of the day, people only will buy from you if you are delivering something that like provides value to them and actually gives them a good experience, right? So you can trick them once, but in terms of retention, where money is really being made, these things are like short satisfaction wins. So that would be like it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and it's a small world, so it's not. Okay, let's move on to the second question. This one is pretty broad, but maybe you can fit it in like 5-6 minutes. So, how to launch a growth hacking agency?
First of all, ask yourself
What
if
do
you
you
want to really do that, and make sure not to quit your day job before you have some use cases and just like some success cases presented and that you can absolutely stand by them. The problem in the space is that it is like pretty cluttered by now. And I mean, everybody is in the spiel and they can like just like claim to do stuff, and not necessarily is it true. And especially when it comes to business owners that are not so digital marketing savvy, it's very like difficult for them to understand what is good and what is bad. And having like a lot of shady practitioners in the field, things can get like really bad for the discipline reputation. But I'm not saying that everybody who wants to do that is a bad person and that they shouldn't do it. What I'm basically saying is that first of all, you need to have a couple of case studies. So stuff that you did as a practitioner, just like that you provided some results, maybe like even a valid background or some sort of growth engine modeling that is proprietary to you per se. And I think that we should only have legitimacy once we establish some results. At the beginning, it's much better to go and work like for another agency or for a company before you like establish this critical mass of experiences and just like this notion that things will work out, because it is like being a blacksmith or a butcher in a way, right? Eventually you get better and people will only trust you when you can consistently and predictably deliver results. So without having a success case or two under your head, it's probably too early. So don't quit your day job yet. Other than that, it's still a pretty new field, right? So we are still all investing into educating the market and just like making sure for them to understand what are the benefits of following the growth process. And growthhackers.com are doing spectacular job on this. Lately, HBR has really taken up the subject as well. So they have like a lot of work experimentation going on. Then we have like CXL Institute, and it's really good to penetrate these communities, to stay in touch, what we are all about, what we are talking right now, what's hot, what's not, and most importantly, what challenges our company is facing on this journey. Only by understanding that can you develop a set of products and services that will have a great product market fit. So ask a couple of your colleagues that are business owners, what is your greatest growth challenge? Try to sit down with them and propose a solution, how you could tackle that. And this will be probably the easiest way how to get initial experiences. However, if you already are established in like digital marketing and stuff like that, invest that you learn about product and analytics as well. Because at the end of the day, it's really easy to tweak advertising and just like top of the funnel stuff. But when it comes to like cohorts or to calculating churn or LTV, things that are like very much deep into product, these are types of challenges that you need to be equipped to understand as well. And here, like my personal perception of this field is that there are a lot of very good people, but there are a lot of shady people as well. So just select the teammate.
Yeah, I guess like in every business. So
that's right. That's right.
If you're starting, maybe try growth hacking your growth hacking agency, and
that would be my
get
recommendation as well. I wouldn't call it agency per se. I would seriously go out and develop a couple of use cases before I go out and invest like into a website and just like building your sales funnel. Because like what gives you credibility about as being like an expert, and especially coming from our region and like selling to Americans or whatnot, this is a result only spiel. Hate to say it, but this is how we get our ticketing.
Is it possible to for people to, and do something like micro niche, like I'm doing only what we said, like gambling, or I'm doing only I don't know, pharma or something else.
That's
So
a
maybe
very
that would start. So we're not doing everything.
And the cases you will like select to do at the beginning, where you will project your results, will attract like new leads and new customers. So in a way, it's really like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Meaning, like if you have a lot of traction in, I will just invent something out, in growing like service businesses or in e-commerce, clients will probably gravitate to you based on that expertise. And you can, of course, strategically develop your use cases in order to just like make sure that you have deeper expertise, or even strategically acquire them to specialize in something else. Because right now, I mean, I'm not saying myself as a generalist, but it's my job as a teacher to be familiar with different business models and different growth engine, right? So you cannot give the same piece of advice to somebody who's growing a product like software as a service business, or somebody who's doing an e-commerce. This is just like a different animal. Also in terms of B2B and B2C. Stuff just not universally applicable, I'm afraid, apart from the process. Process is holy and we should definitely follow it. But other than that, I mean, it's all about like, where do you see the majority of success, and where do you find and your clients actually recommend that you can create the most value in. So that will eventually happen. It's not like just like sitting one day down and deciding, yeah, I want to do growth hacking for accountants. Let's find hundreds of accountants and envelop a service proposition for them. I mean, things do happen organically, and it's good for an individual to try different stuff, because eventually you discover something that you are uniquely good at, either when it comes to like time on the market. So I'm very, very, very good at optimizing large accounts, as well as developing go-to-market strategy, which is probably not a skill set found in one person, but this is really where I get this gist of like doing my job, right? But if I haven't tried like more stuff, I would never learn that, or I would just like sit in a certain niche and things would start to repeat. So yeah, it's a journey, and it's evolving nonstop. But definitely don't quit your day job yet. First, develop a couple of use cases that you can proudly present to others, and find a client or two on a retainer, so that you can have like a sustainable living before you go ahead and submit a resignation letter to your job, especially in these times.
Right. Good advice. I wish I heard it before I quit my previous company.
Oh, no, you're doing fine, mate. You're doing fine.
Good enough. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. Is growth hacking more about tools or strategy? How important are tools, and can a campaign be successful if you're not using any? You mentioned that when you're starting growth hacking agency, maybe you shouldn't focus on website first. So maybe that's a bit start of the answer, but I'll leave you to answer.
Cool. So it depends like on a state of like market and go to market that the idea is currently at, right? So if you are just like starting out and you are preparing to go on a growth journey, of course it's super important to select the right analytical stack of tools that will guide your decision later on. So you would like to have kickoff analytical set and some user tracking to just like make sure that your funnels are correct and that you are doing the right stuff, that you can like make the right decisions. So in that sort of a scenario, tooling would be extremely important, and just like applying this stack would make all the difference for what you are optimizing for, if you have this reliable single source of truth that you can rely on in decision making. If you're doing a standard marketing campaign, in contrast, I mean, people get hooked on tools pretty easily. Tools are sexy to them. They love to just like find around, inventing some shortcuts. But tools should be selected based on the growth strategy that you and your team have decided upon. I was just like working with a large German corporation the other month, and so that was in June the other month, and we were like developing growth strategy for one of their solutions. So the whole idea was that at the beginning we had to do like extremely good data analysis and some very, 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 very heavy ideations to make sure that we are like selecting the right channels, the right techniques, and later on the right tools to execute that. Sometimes you get in this scenario, for example, especially when you have to go with some cold mailing or B2B sales, that you find tools that will absolutely like become a strong acquisition channel for you. So that could be like Cognizant in terms of targeted outreach instead of LinkedIn Navigator. That could be like some sort of a tool for ads optimization that you are using or whatever. But that comes later on once you already like verify the channel and that something is worth investing in. I would like to actually meet this tool person guy. I think that we would be good friends because I'm very heavy on trying new stuff as well. And I actually have to like really go back and like to manage my enthusiasm about things. So I'm always like strategy first, tools later, and sometimes you can find a tool that will like be a new strategic opportunity for you, but that doesn't happen as often as we would like.
Yeah. How many tools do you usually use? Like I guess it depends on the campaign and the company and what they want to accomplish. But can you say if like normal is to use, I don't know, like 3 to 5 tools or 30 to 40 tools?
Yeah, so it depends like what we are optimizing for. If you have like a website and you would like to do solid analytics and A/B testing or something like that, you would select tools that cater those areas. And sometimes like the number of tools is really not the best answer. I've seen teams that use like 20 or 30 different tools but don't really use them. So a tool can only provide you a value if you are analyzing this stuff and that you are like very disciplined about using this. And the typical example of this is Hotjar. I mean, Hotjar is so commonly used, but rarely, like maybe 5 out of 30 people that I work with, and that's an optimistic estimation actually, uses it to just like generate insights from recordings or just like check out their heat maps very frequently. So at the end of the day, tools are here to help you make decisions and to excel at your job, and they will only work once you use them. But absolutely must are the analytical tools. So some sort of user tracking is very beneficial to have. Then I'm like very big on heat maps, either full story on Hotjar. I just love this, having so much fun doing that. And I mean, tools should be applied once you verify that something will already happen. For example, on LinkedIn, don't just like go ahead and install LinkedIn helper so that you can get 10,000 connections. Try and sell something first, like try manually email these people. And once you verify that this is something that is good for your business, tools are the next level, how to optimize that. That would be sort of my common sense advice, how to do this. And yeah, I actually don't know nobody who is using lower than 5 tools, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what my concern is. If I'm using like 10 tools, I guess I will be spending like all day just either checking the tools. Not sure if I will be able to actually do any work.
Yeah, and of course, like this shit slows down your website, you know. It's just like if you are using like Google Optimize, it gets slowed down even though it's Google Stack. If you have like it's Stack for installation. So when it comes to tool selecting, and that's like a very, very, very hard learned lesson for me. I used to be like very big on, oh, give me Google Tag Manager, and then I will spam your entire website by doing a lot of integration. And actually, like guys in Serbia, like Branimir and his team said, no, no, the Google Tag Manager is a serious security vulnerability, and you should definitely not do that. So this is how we learn, just like by interacting with product teams. Of course, you find like a system that works well for you, but these are all the factors that you should take into consideration when you are selecting your tool stack, especially with website speed, because like the majority of traffic these days and this to B2C comes from mobile, and it's so damn important to just like to load your website as quickly as you can. This is number one conversion killer.
Yeah, that's something that that is your organic growth. So no hacking needed. Just do it. Just make your website as fast as possible. All right. Next question: how did COVID change the growth hacking landscape?
So the good news is that there is a lot of more business for everybody who's working stuff in digital, because companies that have been like radically slow, for example, like it breaks my heart to say this, but like restaurants or like tourism industry and people who have really been like on the bad part of this history of COVID, digitalization was actually the only way how they could pivot their business model in order to just like make something in these incredible hard times. So we got a lot of like this initiation of digitalization and digital transformation in businesses that create huge opportunities for all. That being said, there have been industries that have been drastically hit and others who have been extremely fast growers. So work was really fragmented in the COVID and post-COVID world. If we can say that, I'm still not sure about that. So there have been like categories such as home workouts and like home delivery stuff. A lot of e-commerce has been rising fantastically well, and like growth rates there have exploded. And on the other hand, like people were delaying larger purchases because like people are insecure about their future. And then we have like these service high touch industries that were suffering greatly. And we can help them both. I mean, we can have winners how to scale, and we can help people who are less fortunate by this situation to develop like new leverage and new just like revenue opportunities, for example, pre-sales and so onwards. What I think it will happen in the long run is that world with change in terms of digitalization. Like the thing that happened right now is the biggest like speed booster in terms of us as workplace and consumers developing new habits. For example, my own mother, she works in public sector and she has like mastered how to use 3 different online chats and collaboration tools in a week, whereas she was struggling severely to log in on Facebook for approximately 5 years. So these are some habits that will inevitably change and will be easier. Other than that, it did teach us like valuable lessons as business owners as well. How important is the lifeline of your business? So when you have this insecurity and just like people delaying their purchases, it usually comes down to whether you will have a lot of like lifeline to even survive. So how long can you support your business? And I think that it made us act differently financially as well. Other than that, COVID and the entire situation for the booming categories on Facebook, it's already changing. In the summer, American election money is coming into Facebook. You know, they will generate a new batch of fake news, and like the ad space is projected to get a little bit more expensive. That like what happened in April is sort of an anomaly, because for the first time since Facebook exists, the cost of ad space just like fell. And right now, what we can see that is already going on is also like return to these things that are like more predictable. So there is like a shift back to offline and local marketing in the USA, because there's just like the huge platforms and stuff that is going on with data. It's concerning to people, especially to more liberal people that are having some concerns about that. So that's sort of a post-COVID world that I'm seeing here from my business practice. I'm not familiar with the situation in Serbia a lot, apart from the connections that I have with my colleagues there. But yeah, I mean, if you can give your perspective on that, that would be valuable for listeners as well, I reckon.
Yeah, so it's like we all saw that joke. Who did your digital transformation? So yeah, it accelerated things. Our first season, we spoke to Momir Djekic. He spoke a lot about digital transformation, and yeah, basically now all the traditional businesses that were running away from digital world, they didn't need it. Now suddenly depends on it, and they accelerated usage, and I think they now see the possibilities of digital world, and how it can be connected to their offline businesses and traditional stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And the other front that is like very interesting to me, at least like on a personal level, is how does it influence like young people who are just like starting with their careers, people who are joining into workforce. And I mean, in my age, like there was a financial crisis, right? So a lot of people went abroad, a lot of people just like studied longer, and that's actually the hidden externality that I'm personally most afraid of. So my advice for young people would be just like work your butt off and learn new things so you can apply them, and that you can have more proprietary value to companies, that you can give them something else, focus on value, and definitely continue to invest in yourself, because you have to be differentiated in this job market. And just like knowing them that they are like digital generation, that they use TikTok and all the other cool platforms. There are so many opportunities. So that's like my best bet to them. Go out and do something that nobody else is doing at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Lose fear of trying things and failing. At the end, it doesn't matter. Fall once, twice, and then third times you will make it. And maybe use all the applications and everything that digital world gives you. Use it for business, or try to make some business, not just like spending 3 hours looking at or looking at Instagram stories or stuff.
Yeah, because
Right.
that's all their unique competitive advantages, right? So they are like digital natives. You and I both know how is would like to use the stationary phone, or just like how difficult was it when you were caught in the train and you couldn't say to your relatives that you will be late for dinner. Somebody must have thought that you are dying or something like that. So things that they are sometimes taking for granted are actually still like a new thing that they can teach us as like not being so much digital native, but digital, how to say, transformed. They do have value. So just think how you can apply this on a business level.
Yes, definitely. And they don't know how hard it was to remember like 50 or 60 numbers of your friends.
Hey, good for you. I'm not that popular. I have maybe 5 numbers to remember.
I'm pretty good with numbers, so it's
people.
So, grand finale. I think you will like this one. I really like this question. So what would you say that was the most exciting growth experiment you have applied?
All right, and I have to disappoint you, it will be rather boring, but not hang up right now. I will explain you the logic behind it. So the best thing that I've ever done in my career are like derived from some pretty heavy data crunching. So to really go deep into the numbers to see what's going on, because if you're like browsing the internet and reading articles like 15 top growth hacks, how you will do that, and then you are reading about some godforsaken 15-year-old Dropbox referral loops, which was brilliant at the time, but unfortunately doesn't work that well any longer because everybody's doing that. This is a stuff that is like completely outdated, and if you like are just like establishing digital marketing in your company, company. It could maybe a boost, but it will definitely not be a game changer. So the best idea that you'll have in your life will come from crunching the numbers, from talking to users, from just like insights that are very, 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 very specific to you, sometimes from analyzing competitors, but that's the other area. So one of the greatest things that we ever did was when we discovered in a running app that what they are communicating is completely wrong in terms of who's actually using the app. Let me explain that. The app was developed by some really like heavy running enthusiasts, and they were communicating stuff like get ready for your first semi-marathon. And when we dive into data, we discovered that majority of folks from just like registration phone are overweight people who don't necessarily run 5 kilometers in a row yet. So the entire communication and targeting was shifted towards people who would just like to get in shape, lose a couple of pounds, or just like be more healthy, and that was a tremendous boost. Had they go on and continue into this very, very, very niche targeting of people who are getting ready for marathons, product would be different. But if they could address like a larger mass of users with that specific product, that was definitely a huge pivot for them. The other stuff that I'm totally, totally passionate about is finding those loopholes in the data that nobody else has thought of. So I'm like obsessed with analytics. I would literally spend my days crunching numbers and like watching different stuff just to find these small windows for improvement. Because sometimes simple things such as placing your like newsletter opt-in window there and there would make a tremendous difference in terms of how much like are you getting. So just by being there, monitoring your data, always second guessing what are the solutions is probably the best way how to get these things that are unique to you and your users, because it's not only like what product is right now, it's also what feedback of the customer is. And let's demonstrate that on like a really simple example. So I'm obsessed with customer discovery surveys, sorry, by Slavic English to say anketa survey. So I'm doing tremendously a lot of this stuff. And there, like, if you send out an email to like 20,000 customers, you will surely get 4,000 answers back. And people like express what your product is all about so beautifully. And if you just like throw in some text analysis, not necessarily some heavy stuff, but just like basic stuff that you can do in SPSS or Excel, amazing things will come out of this. Just like ways, how do you describe your product? This, like the best value proposition comes from your customer mouth. The channels that are their preferences, stuff that they are missing in your product. I sincerely believe that by running one customer discovery survey or just like one product market fit survey, if somebody prefers that expression, you could get like at least 10 or 12 different ideas. My personal record is 70. That was a really strong data set. And the best things in life happen when you talk to people, when you measure stuff, and when you are being specific. So my basic like and most crucial takeaway here is don't go around the internet and Google for 20 growth hacks, what to do this and that. I mean, it's good as an idea to test maybe, but the best things that will ever happen and things that will bring like tremendous impact to your business are things that you will learn from crunching the data and talking from users. So that would be my key takeaway.
Nice. Yeah, I guess people think that it's more growth hacking is more about tools and it's all shiny and everything is all the colors and stuff. And if you use like one or two or combination or 5 tools, you will achieve some amazing things. But actually, the most exciting thing is like boring crunching of data.
Well, and I'm not saying that there isn't like exciting stuff out there as well. So you can always test like new channels. I don't know. I was talking about LinkedIn Sales Navigator before, and one of the teams, like very, very heavy enterprise B2B team that I was working with, did like this awesome experiment that they just like went to a fair somewhere abroad. I don't remember where, and they said send everybody in the area a message through LinkedIn Sales Navigator that they will be there and that they would like to invite them to meet for dinner or something like that. And they got amazing meeting opportunities out of that. But I'm just saying that teams have to be aligned and strategic. It's also very important to focus your efforts because when you are just like starting the growth hacking operation, you are under this tremendous pressure that people have very inflated expectations, and at least like one or two in the first 10 experiments will have to work for you. So the other main message from me is choose your chances. Use your prioritization framework. Make sure that you are like very much focused on the metric that actually matters, not some bullshit statistics of how many followers do you have on TikTok, on what's your organic reach on LinkedIn. These are vanity metrics and won't move the needle for your business. Be very specific, be very honest, be very transparent, and be very focused. That's the way how you can secure that within your first 10 shots, you will do something that actually makes an impact and has like a tangible value for the company. That will unlock the success of the operation further on then.
Yeah, definitely. And it makes sense. All right.
Yeah, I think that actually should make sense. That's kind of
okay, we're done with the questions. Maybe some final words where people can follow you. Maybe some resources or something.
All right, so definitely follow up with me if you have any sort of like growth incentive or growth community in Serbia. I would love to learn that. Invite me for a meetup when borders will be open again. And I would love to connect. And just like there are so many wonderful people in Serbia and in the region with so much knowledge, with very, very tangible results. So if you are one of them, definitely reach out and we can either discuss an interview together, LinkedIn Live. So I will, my personal mission is to just like make sure that good examples are being broadcasted if people are interested to do that. Of course, not everybody is. The second advice to people who are just like getting started is make sure that you have some playground, right? You can go and use something like Google Analytics demo account to learn how to do the first quirks in analytics. You can like participate with your cousin or with your aunt to grow their business, to get the first glimpse out of this, but don't get caught in this rabbit hole of just like absorbing information. Make sure that you are out there doing stuff, because this is actually where you will learn the most. That comes through again and again. If you have admiration towards somebody in the space, go out there and ask them like if they would be willing to talk or like direct you towards the resources that you can learn how they develop their career. A friend of mine did that to Gymshark CMO, so that's a very popular sport apparel brand in the USA. And the guy actually like took 1 hour out of his business schedule to do a mentorship call with somebody from Slovenia. That's incredible. I'm so obsessed by that. And nevertheless, I am having like a lot of online courses out there. So there is the Udemy course, that's the most popular one. I love to do interviews and just like being present on meetups as well. Keeping active on LinkedIn, but not for 3 weeks now because I'm at the seaside. Promise to get better again. And during the summer, I will record more advanced courses. So the courses that are meant for more advanced audience. And I would love to give you a shout out when we launch those.
Amazing. Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone for listening to our talk. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter.
And invite me to Serbia.
Yes. Invite Maja to Serbia, and yeah, so we can brag how many followers we have. And
No, I would love
All the
that
important
would be a
time.
fantastic landscape. Thanks so much for inviting me to your podcast and good luck with everything.
Thanks. Bye.
Cool, ciao.
I za kraj, trenutno sarađujemo sa nekoliko fondova i anđela, pa ukoliko ste startup u potrazi za investicijom, imate neko pomeranje na tržištu, imate obrt, pišite nam kako bismo ostvarili saradnju.